Thanks, Sean, for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, now you actually joined the group NAMBLA, what, in 2001? Just so people have an idea, before we get to the political controversy, tell us about you infiltrating this group.
Actually, the infiltration was fairly easy. They had a website. I paid $35. I joined the group. They sent me a letter praising me for my courageous step in joining the organization. I began to get emails from them. I was subscribed to their magazine. They started to send me their magazine, but they wouldn't allow me to attend any of their secret underground meetings until I'd been a member for 3 years and had been sponsored by another active duty member.
All right, what is NAMBLA's real agenda? They say publicly that it is to get rid of age consent laws, but it's deeper than that. What did you discover in your years having infiltrated them?
Oh, yeah. They're hiding behind the First Amendment. Ostensibly, they claim that they are designed to abolish age of consent laws. I was in the organization for 3 years. I had attended 2 of their national conferences. I spoke with many of their members. I corresponded with about 175 of their members. At no time during my 3-year infiltration was there ever any discussion about modifying age of consent laws, abolishing age of consent laws. Every conversation that I had was about where to go to have sex with little boys, how they could attract little boys, how they could groom little boys. That was their agenda.
All right, you actually sat through a discussion at one of these seminars that you went to where they talked about, it's almost unimaginable, about sex with an 18-month-old child. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. At one of the conferences that I attended, there was a discussion about that it was actually okay, proper, there was nothing wrong with having oral sex on an 18-month-old boy. The rationale being that little boys, you know, play with themselves, they enjoy touching themselves.
All right.
So the men were actually bringing pleasure to the little boys by committing oral sex.
This is really sick and really twisted. Now, this brings This brings us to the issue of this guy. Who is Harry Hay and his involvement, the guy that Jennings has praised? Who is he?
Harry Hay is a longtime radical. He is sort of a NAMBLA icon. If NAMBLA had a Hall of Fame, he would be in it. In fact, in their 2002, when Harry Hay died, he was on the cover of their magazine, the NAMBLA Bulletin. Harry Hay spoke at NAMBLA conferences. He marched with them when they had when they were more public with their participating in parades and all of that. But yeah, Harry Hay.
All right, well,
this was not possible, but second of all, what did he call? Well, I saw he documented it on page 160 and 161 in Kinsey's book, Sexual Behavior in the Human Male. He described specifically what he called an orgasm amongst these children.
Kinsey defined orgasm for pre-adolescent children with the following description: a gradual and sometimes prolonged build-up to orgasm, which involves still more violent convulsions of the whole body. Heavy breathing, groaning, sobbing, or more violent cries, sometimes with an abundance of tears, especially among younger children.
And he said there were 6 categories. He called them 6 categories of orgasm, and he had category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And included in these categories of what he called an orgasm were screaming, writhing in pain, hysterics, especially among younger children. He put that in parentheses, especially among younger children, parentheses. He said that the children had convulsions. Those were his words. He said they fainted. He said they struck the partner. He called it the partner. This is the man who's raping the child. Okay. They struck the partner and tried to get away. And he said that those were all examples for him, of orgasm.
Kinsey made it clear that this data was supplied by adult observers, who were defined as pedophiles by Kinsey's own team members, as you will hear later on. Kinsey wrote, "Some males suffer excruciating pain and may scream. The males in the present group, by which he meant pre-adolescent boys, become similarly hypersensitive before the arrival of actual orgasm, will fight away from the partner, and may make violent attempts to avoid climax, although, he said, they derive definite pleasure from the situation." Kinsey biographer James H. Jones was a 1998 Pulitzer Prize finalist for his biography on Kinsey. In the Yorkshire documentary, Jones had this to say about Kinsey's description of child orgasm.
If you read those words, what he's talking about is kids who are screaming, kids who are protesting in every way they can the fact that their bodies, that their persons are being violated.
At that point, reading that, I said, the only person who could write that would be, number one, a pedophile or a pederast, because these were boys, was homosexual abuse of boys, and a sadomasochist. That is, the only human being in the world who could call an orgasm something that involved people throwing up, I mean, having convulsions, fainting, screaming, crying. The only person who could do that is someone who experienced that themselves. And that had to be a sadomasochist. And the only person who could apply their sadomasochism to an infant and a child would be a pederast, a rapist. And that's what Kinsey did in that book.